Now, what am I talking about with the purse being withheld? Well, it all goes back to when he beat Benoit Saint-Denis. And what did he do? He celebrated. He jumped on the cage like a lot of fighters do. He wasn't the only one that night that jumped on the cage. No, Max Holloway did it. Gable Steveson did it. And they're also under investigation, and they may have their purses withheld, or they potentially are going to get fined thousands of dollars. Now, this is utterly ridiculous. I hate this rule.
This is #1 bullshit.
But let's get into it here before I give you my thoughts.
Paddy Pimblett could now face a financial penalty from his UFC 329 earnings after his post-fight celebration against Benoit Saint-Denis. Following his 52-second submission victory, Pimblett climbed over the cage and jumped out, behavior that can violate Nevada's rules regarding fighter conduct after a bout. A disciplinary hearing could determine whether a portion of his purse is withheld. Pimblett is reportedly not the only fighter facing scrutiny, with Max Holloway and Gable Steveson also being connected to similar issues after their celebrations. Michael Bisping and Daniel Cormier have criticized the situation, arguing that punishing fighters for celebrating an emotional victory this way makes little sense.
The 31-year-old Paddy Pimblett unleashed a modified Peruvian necktie Doris choke, and then he described himself as the best in the world. And then what did he do? Max, Paddy and Gabe, they all jumped on top of the cage like we all do. I did it at UFC 199, which was in California, which is one of the strictest ones in the world. A lot of fighters jump on top of the cage. It's one of the best bits. You want to celebrate. You've just won in front of 20,000 people, in front of millions of people watching live all over the world. You're allowed to celebrate winning. Certainly if you've just won the world title. Boxers do it in a boxing ring. They jump on the ropes and salute the crowd. That happens all the time, and apparently there's no issue with that. But if MMA fighters jump on top of the cage, well, then they're going to get fined. They might have their purses withheld. It is utter absolute dog shit. It's nonsense. It's a crime. It is the Athletic Commissions trying to get a few bucks for themselves. This rule needs to be checked.
Michael Bisping argued that Paddy Pimblett's celebration was hardly unusual, pointing out that fighters have climbed the cage after major victories many times before. From Bisping's perspective, Pimblett had just completed an exhausting training camp, made weight, competed under immense pressure, and delivered a major victory in front of a huge audience. He believes taking away thousands of dollars simply because a fighter climbed the cage is excessive and called for the rule to be reconsidered.
Possible punishment for doing this, for breaking this law, right, this rule, has precedent. At UFC 300 in April 2024, Diego Lopez was fined $5,000 from his $100,000 purse, which was later turned into a $2,500 fine. Now, Gable Steveson, he did the same thing. His case is expected to be the strangest to resolve, with his climb having been scarcely picked up by the broadcaster. The Nevada Commission is supposedly aware regardless. Well, yes, of course. They didn't need to watch the broadcast. They were in the arena. They were there. They saw it with their own eyes, okay? It doesn't matter whether or not he did it on TV or not, and I don't know the finer nuances of this, but this is, as Khabib would say, #1 bullshit.
This is #1 bullshit.
Okay, it is absolutely ridiculous. As old as mixed martial arts has been happening, people have been jumping on top of the cage. I understand they want health and safety. They don't want people to get hurt. Rules are in place for a reason. I get that, but this is a stupid one, okay? The 12 to 6 elbows, that was a stupid rule as well. And guess what? Eventually, they did away with it. Apparently, that one was in place because somebody from the Athletic Commission saw a Kung Fu master shattering pieces of ice with a 12 to 6 elbow. Right? You can get more power in an elbow like that, where you can use the rotation of your waist, just like when you throw a punch. But doing that broke some ice or some boards, and the commission were like, oh no, that's too dangerous. As we know, that's now a thing of the past. Hopefully this will soon be a thing of...
Bisping used his own career as an example of why he considers the punishment unreasonable. After defeating Luke Rockhold at UFC 199 to capture the middleweight championship, Bisping celebrated by climbing onto the cage himself. He explained that after dedicating years to reaching a moment like that, emotions and adrenaline naturally take over once the victory finally arrives. In his view, fighters should not be financially punished for a celebration that has been repeated throughout MMA history, especially when the same issue is now affecting Pimblett, Max Holloway, and Gable Steveson.
It says here that if Paddy Pimblett is to be charged and fined, then it'll probably be higher than what Diego Lopez was fined, because his fight purse was bigger. Now his manager Graham Boylan has come out, and here's what he said. He said, for the record, the rule needs to be changed. Yes, it's the fight game, and the systems that need to be in play make it all work, but this rule does nothing to support that, and I completely agree with Graham Boylan there. He went on to say, it's 2026. Apply a little common sense, he concluded. Pimblett and his fellow UFC stars, they will face the Nevada State Athletic Commission in disciplinary hearings next Wednesday, which is just absolute lunacy. This is kangaroo court. Listen, I respect the athletic commissions, but this is bullshit. This is crazy. This is stupid. Holloway, when he jumped on the cage, scaled the cage after a similarly speedy victory against Conor McGregor, in which the Irishman blew out his knee in the opening round, okay? They got no problem with that. Conor McGregor jumps up in the air, blows his knee out. Oh, that's all fine. It is. It's nothing to do with the athletic commission. It was just a damn shame. But fining fighters for celebrating in one of the biggest moments of their career is bullshit. In my opinion, I don't know, it feels like straight up robbery. Yeah, you can't break rules, and that is a rule that's in place, but it shouldn't be.
Bisping also questioned why MMA appears to treat cage celebrations differently from other combat sports. He pointed out that boxers routinely climb onto the ropes after major victories, and it is widely accepted as part of the celebration. Yet when an MMA fighter climbs the octagon, commissions may respond with fines or withheld earnings. Bisping argued that Pimblett was simply celebrating an impressive submission win and had not caused any trouble or confrontation. In his opinion, the rule is outdated and should be reconsidered for modern MMA.
Also, Paddy Pimblett versus the Nevada State Athletic Commission. I hope that gets laughed out of the courtroom. I hope they make a rule change. I hope that becomes a thing of the past. Nobody gets hurt. This is absolute bullshit. It's nonsense. It's silly. It's stupid. I respect the athletic commissions. I respect the sport. I respect the game. I respect everyone involved in this. But
Daniel Cormier was even more critical of the regulation, calling it one of the most absurd rules in MMA. He explained that strict regulations are necessary during competition to prevent dangerous fouls, such as eye pokes or illegal strikes. However, he sees no comparison.
I saw on MMA Junkie, our good friends at MMA Junkie, that 3 fighters from UFC 329 are having sanctioning hearings for celebrations. I gotta be honest with you. That is probably the most ridiculous rule in mixed martial arts. Look, man, we got rules, right? You can't kick each other in the nuts. Of course, you shouldn't kick each other in the nuts. You should not poke each other in the eye, and you should not do certain things when you're fighting. But to tell me, a fighter, to not celebrate with enthusiasm, it's absurd. Because now you're telling me that Max Holloway, Paddy Pimblett, and Gable Steveson are going to go in front of the Nevada State Athletic Commission because of their celebrations. They jumped on top of the cage. Now you are told you cannot jump on top of the cage when you celebrate. You are told not to jump over the cage and exit the octagon when you celebrate. You are told many, many things.
Between those safety rules and penalizing a fighter for celebrating after a victory, Pimblett, Max Holloway, and Gable Steveson had all won at UFC 329 and celebrated afterward. Yet they could still be required to answer to the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Cormier believes that response is completely disproportionate.
You can't help it. You really cannot help it. Listen, I believe that the Nevada State Athletic Commission and California, they set the standard for commissions around the world. They really do. They're the best. They are ran the best. They do everything the best. But this rule right here is absolutely absurd, because when you're in a fight and something happens like what Paddy Pimblett did, hey, we all know that the expectation of that fight between him and Benoit Saint-Denis was that it was going to be very tough. He submits him in the first round. Gable Steveson looks like a fighter that's been competing for years, does it all standing, gets a knockout. Max Holloway has lived with Conor McGregor beating him for 15 years, regardless of the way that it happened. He gets that victory. He celebrates on the cage. In those three cases, those guys all experienced euphoria. They experienced this fulfillment that you can't even sit at home and try to replicate. You just can't. Because when something like that, when I fought Stipe Miocic, I knocked him out and I jumped on the cage. Because if you play out 100 scenarios, most times you don't get to that one. So when you get to that one, you get excited. You can't ask a fighter to have the awareness to not go and do that because they're so filled with joy, but also reset their mind and celebrate.
Daniel Cormier also emphasized that fighters cannot always control their emotions immediately after a major victory. He understands the experience firsthand. Months of preparation, intense pressure, weight cutting, and the enormous physical and mental demands of competition all lead to that one moment. When the fight finally ends in a win, Cormier believes it is unrealistic to expect a fighter to instantly think about every commission regulation before celebrating. For him, climbing the cage in that moment is simply an emotional reaction to achieving something they worked months to accomplish.